Hello, and today's purpose of the day is I can solve work and rate problems. Today we are looking at word problems involving rational equations. Let's take a look at our first example. Jen can rake the leaves in 2 hours. It takes her brother Matt 3 hours. How long would it take them if they worked together? What would be your guess here? Great job guessing. Let's take a look at how we would solve this problem. Remember, these are rational equations. What does a rational expression contain? An irrational expression is in a rational equation. Well, if we look at this, we know that we have Jen's work plus Matt's work has to equal 1 job. So the rate of Jen, the rate of J, times the time it takes her, plus the rate of Matt times the time it takes him, has to equal 1 job. So each rate needs to be in terms of 1 unit of time. So the rate of Jane is that she can rake, and I know you can't see this because I cut this off the top, but you have this in your notes here. But the rate of Jane is that she can rake the leaves in 2 hours. So she can rake the pile of leaves, so her 1 job, in 2 hours. Now we don't know the time it's going to take them to work together, so we're going to call that X. Now, we're adding to that the rate of Matt. It takes Matt 3 hours to rake the same leaves. So that 1 job is going to be raked in 3 hours. Now, we do not know the time it takes them to work together, so we're going to call that X. And that's together got to equal the 1 job. So this now is a rational expression, right? 1/2 X and 1/3 X, which is in a rational equation, which is 1/2 X plus 1/3 X equals 1. Now, let's take a look at how we would solve this. This is not the proportion within a rational equation, so we need to actually look at getting a common denominator. And I'm actually going to write this a little easier to understand. So like 1/2 X can be rewritten as X over 2, plus 1/3 X can be written as X over 3 to equal 1 job. Now I need to get a common denominator. So what's the common denominator of 2 and 3? Well, it's 6, so I'm going to multiply 6 by each of the rational expressions and simplify. So if I'm multiplying by 6, if I take away the 2, this 6 turns to a 3, and I now have 3x with no denominator, which is what I want. Now over here, the second one, if I take out the 3, the 6 turns to a 2. So I get plus 2x equals 1 times 6 is 6. So 3 plus 2 is 5x equals 6. Divide by 5, so I get x equals 6/5 of an hour, or I could rewrite that as 1 1/5 hours, or I could even really be fancy and I could write 1 hour and 12 minutes, because 1/5 of an hour would be 12 minutes. So it takes Matt and Jen 1 hour and 12 minutes to rake the pile of leaves. All right, let's take a look at another example. Jane paints a house in 3 days. When Jane and Becca paint together, they can paint the same house in 2 days. How long would it take for Becca to paint the house herself? Now, you know the total it takes the 2 ladies to paint, but how long does it take 1 person? So this is a little bit different setup, but we're still going to look at the rate of Jane times the time it takes them to work together, plus the rate of Becca times the time it takes them to paint together, equaling 1 job. So let's take a look here at Jane. The rate of Jane is that she can paint the house in 3 days. We know it takes the 2 together 2 hours, so I'm going to say times 2. Plus, we don't know the rate of Becca, so we'll call that B, and then it takes them again 2 hours to work together, and that equals 1 job. Now, let's go ahead and simplify a bit. So, here I'm going to rewrite these fractions, rational expressions, I should say. This first fraction, 1/3 times 2, is just 2/3. And this rational expression, 1 over b times 2, is 2 over b, and equals 1. So now I need to figure out a common denominator of 3 and b. And this is 1, like over 1. And so the common denominator would be 3b. So I'll multiply each rational expression by 3b, so I can get rid of the denominator. And so here the 3's cancel out, so b times 2 is 2b. Here those B's cancel out, so 2 times 3 is 6, equals, and that's a 6 there. That doesn't necessarily look like a 6. It looks like a B. There we go. Equals 1 times 3b is 3b. And let's solve for b. So I'll isolate the variables. 6 equals b. So it takes Becca 6 days to paint the house by herself. Let's look at a third example. A bus leaves a station and travels an average of 50 miles per hour towards a city. Another bus leaves the same station 20 minutes later and travels to the same city at 60 miles per hour. How long will it take the second bus to pass the first bus? Well, first, let's remember the formula for distance. Distance equals rate times time. Let's look at the chart below to help us figure out this problem. Bus 1 travels a distance of d miles at a rate of 50 miles per hour. And it travels the amount of time of, we are going to say x minutes. We don't know exactly, so we're going to call it x. Bus 2 travels a distance of d miles and is going at a rate of 60 miles per hour. And we don't know the total amount of time it will take. That's what we need to figure out. But we know in terms of time here that it's leaving 20 minutes later than bus 1. And we want to know when it passes bus 1. So essentially is equal to, meets bus 1. So we can say here for the time, since it leaves 20 minutes later, x minus 20. X minus 20 minutes. So now let's look at setting up this problem. So bus 1 for their distance is rate times time is 50 times x, right? The rate of 50 miles per hour times the time. And we want to figure out when that's equal to bus 2. And the distance of bus 2 is 60 miles per hour times x minus 20 minutes. So here, let's look at solving this. So I have 50x equals 60x minus 1,200 if I distribute that 60. And let's solve this problem. So I'm going to get the x's on one side, so subtract 60x and get negative 10x equals negative 1,200. Divide by negative 10, and I get x equals 120, so that'd be minutes, right, if x is in terms of minutes, which we said it was, or this would be 2 hours. So this would take bus 2 2 hours if it left 20 minutes later, traveling 10 miles faster than bus 1 to actually meet and pass bus 1. So this is the answer to our problem here. Thank you for listening. Please see Schoology for more information. Have a great day. Bye.